Hey everybody, it's Dave Garcia. I'm an artist working on my first comic book. Part of that work is practicing, so I did a draw along with one of Todd Nauck's recent YouTube videos. He's a professional comic artist and a great teacher of the craft. So go watch all of his videos, then come back here. I'm going to make my original inks available on my website for download for free, so feel free to download those and color along with me if you like. You'll see keyboard presses at the bottom of the screen just so you know what I'm doing. And here's a list of the common keyboard shortcuts that I'm using in Photoshop. It might be different for yours, but this will help you understand what's going on in my video. So let's get coloring Cyclops, a very, very grumpy Cyclops, very stern. So right now I'm setting up different layers for flats. Flatting is the process of color separation, where you figure out where each individual color is going to be. So I'm going to be tracing around all the different parts, things that are going to get very different colors, and then I'll fill them with a unique color. It doesn't really matter what the color is right now. Just something close to what the final color would be fine, just as long as it's different than all the other colors. I did the pencils and inks traditionally, and then decided to color it digitally. I've been learning comic coloring by watching K. Michael Russell's videos. Go watch all his stuff too; it's fantastic. So I'm using the lasso tool and selecting different parts and then filling them. Once I've used the lasso tool to select something, I don't have to select that part again. I just have to select anything where I want to split something that's one color into more than one color. You'll notice I use the shift key to add to the selection and the option key to take away from it. So if I do a big selection and there's a few errors, I can go back, hold the shift key to add a few extra pieces, or hold the option key to subtract something that shouldn't have been in that selection. I'm using the paint bucket to drop in a color into the selection, and this way I've got later on I can just use the magic wand, select that color, and it will select everything that's that color, and save a lot of time when I start figuring out the finer details of what everything's going to look like. The spacebar lets me move around the screen while there's a selection without undoing the selection. Now adjusting the levels just kind of to get the inks a little bit stronger, thicker blacks and not so transparent blacks. Cyclops' uniform is mostly a shade of blue, so I picked a complementary color, orange, to be the background so that it stands out. I had to fix up a few spots of blue that didn't get turned in. Forgot to sign it in the pencil and inking stage, and wanted to make sure underneath that I gave credit to Todd Nauck because this is based on his drawing. Now we've got our basics, our flats, so we can start going in and adding detail. Now I'm giving each one of the colors its own layer, each one of the materials that I'm going to be working on. And starting with his hair, I'm going to start adding some shadows using kind of a desaturated blue color rather than a dark brown. Instead of using dark colors, which might come out muddy in print or might get too close to black, I'm using very, very cool colors for shadows. Cool as in temperature-wise, like blues. Once you get the color down, then you can do fine-tuning with the hue saturation tool. That's Command U. Now I'm giving a ring of highlights around his hair where the hair might be reflecting light back. The shiny locks of Scott Summers. The light source is coming from the top left. Got a slight tilt to his head. It makes it look like he's judging you. He's trying to figure out whether or not he's going to blast you with his ruby concussive eye blasts. A few more spots where the light might be hitting. Trying to get the right skin tone. Then going in for some shadows in the skin. The same thing, I'm picking a cooler color, a little bit darker, maybe a little less saturated. So there'll be a shadow under the nose because the light's from above. Trying to work out whether or not I should do the shadow cast by the nose further down the cheek there. Trying out different things to get the shadows right. Shadow made by the hair. Cut of the cheeks, high cheekbones. And do the upper lip, which would be in shadow. Whoa, that was a lot of lip. Don't give me so much lip, Cyclops. His lips gave me so much trouble. I could not get that upper lip right to save my life. Stretch lines from muscles underneath underneath the nose connects to the mouth. Adding a little bit more shadow under the chin. Trying to get the shape right, curve. Try and lip again. Whoa, too much lip. No wonder Cyclops is so angry. What are you doing to me? My lips look ridiculous. Try something different. Try thin, then building it up a little bit at a time until it looks about right. Trying to get the shape right. Too tiny lips. A little bit better. Then you get to a part where you've just been staring at it for so long, everything looks weird, and you got to go and do something else and come back later with fresh eyes. Since the light's in the upper left, the right-hand side of the nose is going to be in shadows. Not entirely all of it. There might really still be some light hitting that nostril. I don't want it to be completely lost. Just keep working until it works. Just keep changing it until it looks right. Whole side of the cheekbone is going to be in shadow. The nice thing about digital is you can try everything at very little cost. It's very quick. You can undo it, try something else. A lot of experimentation is easy. Whoa, neon nose. Tone that down a bit. Nope, wrong side of the face. Light's coming from the other side. Would have been nice graphically, but just doesn't look right. Trying to give it some more depth, 3 dimensions, trying to give it the illusion of 3-dimensionality, the illusion of depth by giving shadows and highlights in the right places. Make them look even scowlier. Scowlier a word? It is now. Oh, now it's time for the fun part. The visor. It's all metallic and shiny, so you get to do a lot of cool effects, and it glows. Doing kind of a metallic shape, so there's a kind of a dark gradient, and then there'll be a highlight, strong highlight right next to it. And that's his superpower, so that's going to where we want people looking. This is what makes him special, makes him him. And make sure the sides are even. I had missed a line there that would be very helpful, so I drew it in later with digitally, and then I based the colors on where to cut from that line. That's what's great about doing all of your pencils, inks, colors, all the same artist, is you make a mistake in the first stage, you can fix it in the second or the third. Even when you get to coloring, you know, oh, I need to fix that. I can go back and do it. You don't have to feel bad that you made somebody else correct all your mistakes. Since the front part of the visor is more forward, is closer to you than the ear covers, we don't want them to all line up. It should be a little bit higher. Oh, it's starting to look shiny now. Time for the highlights again. And since this is an area where I'm going to want the viewer to be focusing, I'm going to do even more details, even more highlights to get to make it clear that this is a focal point. This is an area that she should pay attention to. Extra shine, almost white. Never really used pure white, but almost there. I'm going to pick a better blue for the uniform. Add the shadows in. I'm drawing them as though they're curving over the shape of the muscles. So I'm not just following the lines that are there, but I'm following the shape of what I'm trying to show. Every stage is fun, but coloring is especially fun because this is when it really starts to look finished and polished, and it starts to come to life. The pencils are fun because you can make anything you want. You get to decide what it's going to be, but at the end is when it really comes to life. Define the collarbones by adding more shadows underneath. So when you're doing shadows and highlights, you can use the eyedropper to pick the neighboring color if you don't have it as your current color. I also like to swap the foreground and background colors, so I'll save like the base color in the foreground and then the shadow color in the background, and then I can use the X key to flip back and forth between them, save time. You can hide certain areas or have less focus on certain areas by making them darker, by making them have less contrast around them. Whereas the brighter areas, the more high contrast areas is where people tend to look. Using a softer brush here so I can get a little bit of a gradient effect. Ready for the highlight. Get the right highlight color. I tend to just pick something that looks right and then once I put it down, use the hue saturation tool to change the color until to fine tune it until it looks perfect. And then I can use that color everywhere else that material is. This video is sped up. It took me about 2 hours and 15 minutes to do the complete coloring, whereas this video is only going to be about 15 minutes, so everything's going super fast compared to how I was working. And there was a lot of time where I was just sitting there thinking about what I wanted to do. And that wouldn't be fun for you to watch, so I sped it up. Some details on his shoulder strap, a little bit of depth. I don't want to put too much detail down there because it's not a focal point. I want people to be looking at his face, looking at his visor. So even when I put in a highlight, I turn it down a little bit, not so bright. I'm going to spend the most time on his visor because that's his unique feature. That's his superpower, and this is where I want people to be focusing. I want the threat of his concussive ruby blast to be imminent, to be on your mind, showing off his power. Now we got his visor done, I give it a glow effect to emphasize that his powers are either just been used or about to be used or it's somewhat threatening. He's deciding whether or not he wants to blast you away. He's looking at you like you just ate the last bagel and he's ready to blast you off your seat. So giving a little ruby glow in the corners. Trying to find the right overlay mode to get the best effect. Usually hard light or vivid light works out well. And it's on top of the inks layer, so you'll see it changes the color of the black lines. Trying different things inside the visor to give it more contrast. Ended up looking too much like a robot, so I took out the white. One final touch, so I wanted to add like a lens flare effect. Makes it look like the aperture is just opening and he's just about to blast you. It's also somewhat reminiscent of Cable, and it's also got an X in there, so appropriate for Cyclops, leader of the X-Men. Adding a little more contrast with a bright white in the center, then turn the opacity down a little bit so it wasn't too unrealistic. That's it. Hope you like it. Here's the tools I use in case you're interested. Follow me on social media at David Garcia. There's links in the description below. Thanks for watching.